Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nasta Prayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to the eternal home of Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari, bestowed upon us by the unlimited mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By His mercy, we've been able to enjoy this most wonderful shelter of Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari for the last 50 years. How many of us have been here for the last 50 years? That's quite? That's okay. Whatever years we have been, it is our greatest fortune, and it is the greatest gift. And during this month of Kartik, we have had the opportunity to celebrate so many festivals. And these festivals are an opportunity to awaken and to enhance our love for Krishna. Because it is by loving Krishna, our eternal Father, Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari, that we can find perfection of life. How many of us want perfection of life? Free of all distress, anxiety, fear, taxes, old age, disease, all these things we want. And where to find it? We find it at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Kunj Bihari. He is our eternal loving Father. And there standing next to Kunj Bihari is Srimati Radharani, who is there, eager like a mother, to bring us under their loving shelter. And so today, we'll discuss the very beautiful pastime of Gopastami. Anybody is here in the temple for the first time? First time? Welcome. Where are you coming from? Windsor. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Anybody is here for the first time on Gopastami? Okay. So everyone's a veteran. So we'll discuss this pastime of Gopastami by reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll read a verse from the 10th canto. It is the 15th chapter, the first verse. This pastime of Gopastami is described in Srimad Bhagavatam in one verse. But thankfully, our acharyas have given us extensive commentary on this Gopastami pastime. And mostly we'll be discussing today from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopala Champu, in which he has explained this pastime, dedicating an entire chapter to it. So we'll take from there, and also from some commentaries from our other acharyas, so we can understand the significance of Gopastami. And we'll answer the question. Anybody notice anything unique about the darshan today? What do we see?
Radharani's feet, lotus feet.
We see her feet. What else do we see?
Radharani is dressed like a gopa.
Radharani is dressed like a gopa. What else? And all the Mataji are dressed like gopas too. What else? Huh? She's got food hanging on her belt. Yes, a snack. What else do you see? Huh? Cows. We see Gomata. Anything else? She has a stick. Do we ever see Radharani with a stick? No. Don't worry, that stick is not to beat us. It is to attract us. Anything else? She has ropes. So we probably have some clue. She must be doing some cow herding, right? Where else do we have a stick, rope, a snack? A bullhorn, you see a bullhorn hanging from her right hand? You see? The bullhorn, everybody sees it? Hanging from, yeah, so very unique darshan today. So why is she dressed like this is what we'll discuss. But before we get there, we'll talk about the pastime of Gopastami and the importance of it in our spiritual life. So I'll read this again. First verse from chapter 15, canto 10. The chapter is entitled Killing of Dhenuka, the Ass Demon. I'll just read the verse in the interest of time, and then we'll go through the translation and purport. Shri Shuka Vacha Tatascha Pauganda Vyashita Vrajaye Babuva Tustau Pashupala Samato Gascharyanto Sakabhi Samam Padair Vrindavanam Punyam Ativa Chakrutaho. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Shukta Goswami said, when Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows, engaging thus in the company of their friends. The two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Purport. Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd boyfriends who had been swallowed by Aghasur and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore, the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Talavan, where there were many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, decided to promote Krishna to the task of herding calves, to the status of regular cowherd boy. He would now take care of the full-grown cows, bulls, and oxen. Out of great affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of full-grown cows and bulls. It is stated in the Kartika Mahatmya section of the Padma Puran, Shukalashtami Kartiketu Smrita Gopastami Buddhahi Tad Dinar Vasudeva Bahud Gopa Purvam Tu Vatsapaha. The 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartika is known by authorities as Gopastami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd, whereas previously he attended the calves. The word Padai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other footgear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan, who feared that his lotus feet would be injured. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sadhana Raghunatam Mitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jaganpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpadurubhyascha Krupasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. just read the verse again. Srila Sukadeva Goswami said, when Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, 6 to 10, living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Okay. So, we notice something very interesting. We know Krishna has many names. He is known as Govinda. What does Govinda mean?
Teacher of cows?
The giver of pleasures to cows. He is known as Gopala, which means he takes care of the cows. He inaugurated Go Puja, the worship of the cows. We know the most celebrated place in Sri Vrindavan Dham is Govardhan. What does Govardhan mean? Govardhan, the hill which nourishes the cows. So like this, we know Krishna is very dear to cows. So this pastime of Gopastami is very dear. Actually, it is one of his nitya sevas. He is always serving the cows in the spiritual world. That is one of his eternal pleasure pastimes. So we understand that in society, we are looking for advancement in society, right? Do we want to go backwards in society? So, how do we measure if we are progressing in society or not? How does the governments get together and they analyze data and statistics and they look at so many features to determine whether we are advancing in society? But does gross domestic product or GDP measure real advancement? GDP is higher today than it's ever been. But can we say happiness is higher today than it's ever been? Actually, this summer, a global survey was done. I think some 100 plus countries participated. Over 500,000 people from all around the world participated. And they were trying to measure the happiness of society as a whole. And it was concluded that we have never been more unhappy. Which is actually quite surprising because you think, at least now, we are coming out of a period in which things were really depressed during COVID, right? Things were locked down and everything was restricted. So many activities we wanted to do, we were precluded from. So you'd think coming out of that, there would be an enhanced sense of euphoria and excitement. But actually, this survey revealed we are most unhappy. So we can look to other measures. Unemployment, does everybody have a job? We can look at literacy rates. Can everybody read and write? We can look at so many other factors. Household, ownership. These things, so many statistics. But we find as those statistics progress, for some peculiar reason, we still see that happiness in society is regressing. We know there is more technology today. There is more medicine today. There is more wealth today. There is more opportunity to see the world. The world is shrunk by technology. All this has happened today. But can we say that we have more peace and happiness than we had 100 years ago? Or even if we just go to our grandparents' generation, do we have more values? More real quality of life? Do we even have more time? It seems the more that we get to make our life simpler, right? The cell phone was supposed to make things easier for us. The car was supposed to get us to point A to point B faster. The microwave was supposed to allow us to cook quicker. The washing machine to wash our clothes faster. All these things are supposed to give us more time. But do we actually have more time? No. So what is my point in this? My point is this. that actually the real measure of progress in society is measured by two metrics. How well the brahmanas are served and protected, and how well the cows are served and protected. We know Krishna is Go Brahmana Hita. He is the protector of the cows and the brahmanas. And we have proof of this. If we look back in Srimad Bhagavatam, we see, the great kings who used to rule. They were kings, which by definition means they are autocrats, right? They can make the decisions. And everybody under their jurisdiction has to follow. But actually the kings were not making decisions unilaterally, on their own. They were being guided. Guided by who? The brahmanas. The brahmanas who had studied Shastra, who had understood how to create real peace and prosperity in society, who were learned. They were consulted by the great kings. They were respected, given great position in society. And then rule was undertaken under guidance of the brahmanas. And thus we see these very prosperous situations taking place during those times. During the reign of Lord Ramchandra, it is said that his rule was so perfect that even there was no death. Nobody died unless they wanted to. This is how great leadership in society can subdue the challenges we face in the world. But it is based on the principles of leadership being guided by the Brahmanas. But what do we see today? Do we see our leaders guided by Brahminical principles? No. Instead, we actually go the opposite. We have progressed so much that we have to now separate spirituality from government. But in fact, a government cannot rule justly without a spiritually based center. It cannot be. Why? Just think about all of us. We are spirit souls. How spirit souls, yes, encased within these material bodies, can successfully coexist together unless there is a spirit-based perspective. Unless we are led by this spiritual perspective. It is not possible. So the Brahmanas, when they are worshipped and respected and helped to sustain in a position where they can guide the leaders of society, then we actually see prosperity in life. And the second measure of progress in society is to the extent that cows are protected. This cow protection is the utmost important activity of humanity. When the cows are protected, then everything else becomes sublime. But if we continue to send the cows to the slaughterhouses, then no matter what else we do after that, it will fail to create any real results. Just like if you have somebody who has committed a great crime, they've committed a ghastly murder. But after committing that murder, they go on and they feed the poor, they go on and help their neighbors out in need, they go on to all these other activities. How do we still view that person? As a saint? No. It is overshadowed. That good is overshadowed by the ghastly activity of having committed a heinous crime. So similarly in society, if we try to do all these wonderful pious things in life, but at the end of the day we continue to neglect the care of the mother cow, it will all be overshadowed by this ghastly activity. We know the cow is one of our 7 mothers. She is a mother. So how we can then tolerate any injustice to mother cow? But due to ignorance, not understanding the position of mother cow, society undertakes such ghastly activities simply to satisfy the tongue, to enrich the pockets. And thus we see why there is so much degradation in society. It has nothing to do with all these other factors that we determine. It has to do simply with the lack of attention on protecting the cows and protecting the Brahmanas. And Krishna himself instructed his own father. We just celebrated Govardhan Puja. When he inaugurated the Govardhan worship, he told Nanda Maharaj to do 2 things. First, invite the Brahmanas, give them charity, offer them nice prasad, and worship the cows. Bring the cows, give them nice grasses, decorate them very fancifully with jewels and royal garments. This is how cows are to be treated. With jewels and royal garments. Not the way society has evolved today. But this is what happens when we have a lack of philosophy guiding our society. So it is the cows and the Brahmanas that will lead to success in life. And this is the only means to make advancement in society. So we can consider we are advancing only if these 2 things are advancing. Protection of Brahmanas and protection of cows. This is the only thing that will work. And so, with that background, let us see how Krishna enjoys the loving exchanges with the cows. This pastime of Gopastami is so sweet, so loving, and it gives us a glimpse into the relationship the Lord has with all of his devotees. And hopefully by this, we'll be inspired in our own right to make some progress to doing our part to protect cows and Brahmanas. Okay? So shall we journey into the pastime of Gopastami? Ready? So this Gopastami pastime, it takes place on the 8th day, Ashtami, the 8th day of the waxing moon in the month of Kartik. This day, actual day of Gopastami is coming up on Tuesday. So this is a great opportunity for us to understand about it and then prepare ourselves for this wonderful day. So Tuesday is the 8th day of the waxing moon in the month of Kartik. And so according to this verse from the Kartika Mahatmya, it says that, right, Shukalastami, this 8th day, this Gopastami took place. So what happened? So let's rewind the clock. So we know Krishna appeared in Mathura and then was taken to the house of Nanda Maharaj and spent his early childhood days and years in Gokul. Up to the age of 3 years and a few months, he lived in Gokul. And after that, they then moved across the Yamuna and they lived in a few places, Chatikar, Ramanriti, and like this. And then we see in this verse, now they were living in Vrindavan. So the age that Krishna is at this point is in the Pauganda age, 6 to 10. Do we understand that? He was 6 years old at this time. He was 7 years old when he lifted Govardhan. Right? We know he was less than 3 years old when Mother Yashoda was chasing him with a stick after breaking the pot of butter. It's like this, we have a time frame. But all these activities took place during the month of Kartik. So Krishna being a very wonderful personality. It is explained in our Shastra, it explained actually earlier in the 8th chapter of this 10th canto, that Krishna grew very quickly. That means that actually our Puranas explain that Krishna aged at 1.5 times the rate that normal people age. So that by the time he was 2 years old, he was doing activities of a 3-year-old. By the time he was 3 years old, he was doing activities of a 4.5-year-old. Please don't ask me to do any more math. But this is the rate. Now let us pause for a second to understand this. Krishna, we know, does he age? No. He does age. But he doesn't age like us. We age by the force of time. We may try to stop age with some hair dye, some anti-wrinkle cream, some joint cream. But we're not stopping age. We're simply trying to prolong its effect. But Krishna doesn't age that way. But he ages. We know that. He was a baby in the lap of Mother Yashoda. And now he is growing up to be a bigger boy. So he's aging. So how does he age? He ages by his will. He desires, today I'd like to grow a little bit. I'll grow. Tomorrow I'd like to grow a little bit more and do some new feature. I grow. And why is he doing this? Simply to give pleasure to the devotees. We know when a child is young and they are growing, what do mothers love to talk about with their friends and with their husband and with their mother and their relatives? Oh, you won't know what my Gopal did today. He did this. Now he can pronounce mother without any stuttering. Oh, he can eat his food all by himself. He can walk without walk. Oh, I asked him to bring a heavy pot and he can even bring the heavy. Like this, we celebrate all of our child's accomplishments. So like that, Krishna grows. But of course, at any age, even showing in his infant form, he is fully powerful. How do we know? He conquered the giant Putana, just being a few days old. So his growing in age is not like ours, where in time we then acquire certain capabilities. But for him, Krishna in time reveals different capabilities, reveals different abilities. But we should not misconstrue that prior to this age, Krishna could not have done this or could not have done that. Understand? This is the transcendental nature of Krishna. That's why Krishna says, Janma karma cha medi vevam yovedi tatvata. That if you know my Janma and karma, then you can become liberated. So, Krishna is growing up very fast. And we know sometimes mothers lament, right, when their childs are growing up fast. So one day, Mother Yashoda is discussing with the wife of Nanda Maharaj's brother, Abhimanda. So the wife of Abhimanda and Mother Yashoda are discussing. And Abhimanda's wife is asking, Maya Yashoda, where Krishna has gone so early in the morning? And then Mother Yashoda starts to lament, Krishna is growing up so fast. He's growing up quickly. He used to bathe me. He used to let me bathe him and rub oil on him and dress him. And now he's being very bashful and he won't let me bathe. He bathes all by himself and he gets dressed. Boys, they don't like after a certain age. They don't like being, bathed by their mother like this. So now Krishna is showing this. Even now, he comes and he offers obeisances to me and touches my feet. He does the same to Nanda Baba. And so this, this really young, boyish love is now, I'm losing that rasa, and he's growing up right before my eyes. And of course we know, he's growing up fast, right? 50% faster than others. So Mother Yashoda like this is kind of lamenting and sad. At the same time, Nanda Maharaj, he is sitting and discussing with his brothers. Nanda Maharaj is one of 5 brothers. So he's sitting with Upananda, Sananda, Nandana, Abhimanda, all of them. And they are discussing. And Nanda Maharaj is expressing one realization. He says, my Krishna, these days, he's not looking at me with those tender eyes, that puppy look of, that innocent boy eyes. But I see him interacting with all of you. He's speaking to his younger brothers, and he's interacting with all of you, very casually and lovingly. Something doesn't seem right. He's coming and he's offering obeisances to me, but I'm missing this childish. So what's happening? And so the brothers of Nanda Maharaj expressed to Nanda Baba, Nanda Baba, Krishna, he is growing up now. And he is expressing a desire that he has grown up to now tend to the cows. He wants to tend to the cows. And Nanda Maharaj is like, no, he's too young. Right? Anytime our kids want to do something, we think, no, they're too young. We're in denial of reality. And so they're talking this way. So Nanda Maharaj and the other Mother Yashoda, they were distraught, right? Because Mother Yashoda, when Krishna was growing up, he was very anxious to tend to the cows. But initially they did not give him the cows. What did they give him? The calves. So he was known as Vatsapa. He is the protector of the calves. But this was okay for Mother Yashoda, because Mother Yashoda could see Krishna, because the calves were not taken so deep into the forest. So Krishna and Balaram were just nearby around Nanda Maharaj's house, and so they were always in sight. And so this way they could be cared for with Mother Yashoda's loving care. But now she knew the inevitable was coming, that someday he was going to ask to take to the cows. And Nanda Maharaj similarly was lamenting. But the brothers also expressed one thing that led to a sense of urgency. Why Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda ultimately acquiesced, agreed. Because when the cows heard that Krishna wanted to take them out to the forest, they became ecstatic. They said, yes, Krishna's going to take us. So what they did, they went on strike. They went on strike. How? When the elderly cowherd men began to call the cows, they would not leave the stables. They were not coming out. And so the brothers and Nanda Maharaj are saying, a crisis is developing. Because the cows are not coming out now. We cannot take care for them. Because they are only now going to go out with Krishna. So then Nanda Maharaj's hand was forced. And Mother Yashoda's hand was forced. They had no choice but to allow Krishna to take to the tending of the cows. So they asked, Nanda Maharaj asked his brothers, please consult with the astrologers and find out, okay, when is the auspicious time for Krishna to begin tending to the cows. And they consulted the astrologers. See, again, we don't take actions, big actions in life, whimsically. We do it under guidance and find. And the astrologer said, on this Ashtami day, in the waxing moon of Kartik, this day would be very auspicious for Krishna and Balaram to begin tending to the cows. So a 3-day festival was organized. A very grand festival was organized to prepare and to inaugurate Krishna and Balaram beginning to tend to the cows. And this was a giant festive occasion. See, we have to understand something. That there are certain pastimes in Bhumi Vrindavan, meaning when Krishna descends to the material world, that are especially sweet for the eternal residents of Vrindavan. We know that when Krishna descends from the spiritual world in Goloka to Bhumi Vrindavan, his eternal residents come with him. You may wonder why anybody would leave the spiritual world and come to Bhumi Vrindavan, even Vrindavan. Why? Why? Because Krishna performs very special pastimes. And we know that when something is new, it is exciting. So in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, Krishna is always tending to the cows. So the associates have never been able to actually experience the jubilation and celebration of Krishna beginning to tend to the cows. Because he's always there. But now, they've experienced the first 6 years of his life not having done this. And so this is a new celebration for even the residents of Vrindavan. And this is like a rite of passage. They call it a graduation. In the Gopala Champu is compared to a graduation. We know when our kids graduate from something, what do? We have a big party. Even they graduate kindergarten. Oh, they're graduating kindergarten. Then middle school, of course, then high school. And we celebrate these things with great festivity. So Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda also began to celebrate. Right? So everybody was in ecstasy. The cowherd boys were ecstatic. Why the cowherd boys were ecstatic? Jiva Goswami comments and explains that when Krishna and Balaram were first taking the cows out, the elderly cowherd men were following them. And then the Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boy said, no, you cannot come. And Jiva Goswami writes that the cowherd boys had become free from the shackles of the glances of the elderly cowherd men. Meaning, when we're under the watch of our parents, we're restricted. But as soon as the parents left, the boys started jumping and dancing and ecstatic, prancing through the forest. Finally free. Because when they're tending the calves, Mother Yashoda would send some servant up to the top of the rooftop, and so that they could constantly be seen. So they're never out of the eyes, these shackles of the parental eyes. But finally, on this day, they were going to become free. So the cowherd boys were ecstatic and excited for this to begin. But who was lamenting? Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda is already lamenting that now Krishna won't even let me bathe him. But now, I'm going to have to be separated from him. Because when he goes deep into the forest, I'll get no news of him. I'll not be able to hear his ankle bells. I won't be able to hear his flute. I won't, nothing. And I'll have to wait. And I'll just be watching the sun. Tick, 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 tick. And just wishing I had a crank to move the sun faster. Because when the sun would set, then I would know he's coming back. So Mother Yashoda was in great anxiety. But nonetheless, she had to relinquish her Krishna. So she pleaded with Krishna, and okay, you're going to go out on to this forest. So I have fashioned some shoes for you. Some nice shoes. So that your precious, tender, soft lotus feet will not be pricked by the thorns that are present in the forest. So Krishna said, Maya, how I can wear shoes? I am the servant of the cows. I am the servant of the cows. We sing this song, or we say, Braja Janapalana, Surakala Nashana, Nanda Godana Rakawala. I am the protector of Nanda Maharaj's cows. If I have to wear shoes, then all the cows have to wear shoes. Now, how many cows Nanda Maharaj had? 900,000. How many legs a cow has? 4. Let's do some math. How many shoes is that? Huh? 3.6 million. That's a tall task for Mother Yashoda to fashion 3.6 million pairs of shoes. So Krishna was left that he would be barefoot. And who was ecstatic? Mother Bhumi, Mother Earth. Mother Earth was ecstatic that she was going to get the blessings of Krishna's lotus feet upon her with no interruption of a silly shoe. Even in Vaikuntha Lok, the holy land of Vaikuntha Lok, the spiritual world, does not receive the footprints of Krishna, nor even Lord Vishnu. Vishnu always has some foot covering. So Rupa Goswami explains that even higher than Vaikuntha is Vrindavan in the material world. Why? Because Krishna's lotus feet touched and made imprints in this land. Just as Shukadev Goswami says, imprinting it upon it with the marks of their lotus feet. So Mother Bhumi was ecstatic that she was going to receive the lotus feet of Krishna. But she also was sensitive. A devotee is never selfish in their service. Yes, I get this service, but a devotee should think, but can I perform this service that will be pleasing to Krishna? Yes, selfishly we may want to make something for Krishna, but we should think, is there someone who can make it better? Maybe I can assist them in making it. That way Krishna will be more pleased. So Mother Bhumi thought, yes, I'm ecstatic to receive the lotus feet of Krishna, but there are thorns as part of my service. There are thorns. So she developed a plan. She made a very wonderful plan. She engaged all the cows. And they decided that they were going to trample all the paths that Krishna would walk all throughout Vrindavan and grind those thorns to the finest of powder, such that every time Krishna's foot touched, it would be like stepping on soft pillows. And so like this, Mother Bhumi purified her pathways of all those thorns and made the sand the finest of sand. And if any of you have gone to Vrindavan, and you've gone particularly to Govardhan, and on the backside of Govardhan, when you walk on some of those inner walking paths, have you noticed how fine that sand is? So soft and cooling and comforting. This is Mother Bhumi preparing herself so that Krishna could enjoy. Actually, in our Shastra, it also explains that in other times, even when Krishna was walking, if there was a pebble, a stone in the walking path, as Krishna's foot would approach, it would shatter into the finest dust. And then as soon as Krishna's foot would lift, it would again form its stone. This is how transcendental the lands of Vrindavan are. So now these obstacles have been cleared, and Krishna was preparing to inaugurate the tending of the cows. And the cows were very excited. Krishna and Balaram were very excited. And so this 3-day festival concluded on the 3rd day. And Krishna offered worship to the Brahmanas who were invited to chant various auspicious mantras, sing various songs. He washed their feet, offered them nice gifts. And then, it's explained again in this narration by Srila Jiva Goswami, that Krishna then washed the feet of the cows. This is the respect and love Krishna shows to the cow. He washed the feet of the cows. And then with his own hands, he fed them sweet chickpeas to nourish them. How are we taking care of the cows? That we can ask. So then Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda finally, wishing their child well, Nanda Maharaj gives Krishna a jewel-studded staff, a stick, to allow him to tend to the cows. Jiva Goswami actually comments that this stick, though in his hand, Krishna was able to coordinate the cows in this journey through the forest simply by blowing on his flute, playing on his flute, and sometimes playing on his bugle horn. You see the bugle horn around his waist? They used that to attract the attention of the cows. So everything was ready. Mother Yashoda had offered tilak to Krishna, sprinkled some auspicious water, and they were ready to go. So Krishna began yelling, "Ji, ji!" And the cows didn't move. What's going on? Not off to a good start. Everybody's looking, pressure is on, right? Like the first time we drive a car, we're making sure, parents are looking, we don't back up and hit another car. Again, there was like this, so everybody's looking on, all the elders, and Krishna's calling out, and the cows aren't moving. He's like, what to do? But the cows are not going to move. Why? Because Krishna was in back. They said, no, Krishna, we'll follow you into the forest. And so Krishna came into the front, and all the cows, they wanted to be able to see Krishna as he was tending them. So Krishna led then the cows. Mother Yashoda told the boys, okay, Balaram, you stand in front of Krishna. Subal, you be on the back side. Sridham and Sudama, you are on the right and left side. And all other cowherd boys around, you protect my Krishna when he goes into the forest. And of course all the boys said, yeah, my. Do we think they stayed in that formation the whole time? No. But this is how they proceeded into the forest. And this inaugurated the first time Krishna took to the tending of the cows. And it was a great festive atmosphere. As soon as they were out of eyeshot of the elders, ecstasy erupted amongst the boys. And all kinds of fun games took place. And they were enjoying and relishing so many pastimes. And Krishna was organizing the cows. It's amazing detail how all the cows were organized by different categories, whether they were pregnant, about to be pregnant, whether they had just given birth, whether they had given many births, the oxen, all the cows were organized into different categories, and they were moving along. And Krishna was so attached to the cows that when the cows would feel thirsty, Krishna would feel thirsty. But when the cows were nourished and satisfied, then Krishna was feeling nourished and satisfied. He had so much love for the cows. He would call them. Each cow had a name. And he would call them by their name. He would embrace them. He would kiss their head. The cow would lick his chest. Like this, a very sweet exchange between Krishna and these cows. They were so ecstatic in receiving this service. This is how much Krishna loves cows. His own thirst was only quenched when the cow's thirst was quenched. So how is it then we can tolerate even the slightest of injustice to the cows? How can society make any progress if the cows are but anything treated with the utmost love, care, to the point of even washing their feet, as the seva Krishna himself performed? So this pastime again took place on the Ashtami day. So this was very ecstatic, and Krishna was now matured, and they would return home into the evening singing songs of all the activities they did. Acharyas also comment, one of the reasons that Krishna wanted to go into the forest was because he had the duty of also knowing to kill many demons. But the demons were located all in the different forests of Vrindavan. So in order to go to these forests, he had to, gain entry through his cowherding pass, so that he can also take care, as in this chapter, he is going to take care of Dhenukasura along with Balaram in the Talaman forest. So now why Radharani is dressed like this? That we haven't discussed yet. Krishna's gone to the forest. Krishna has a staff given by Nanda Maharaj. Krishna has his lunch packed. But why Radharani is dressed like this? Well, of course, Srimati Radharani, hearing that Krishna was now going to go deep into the forest, She was also aching for that opportunity. And Krishna was also aching for the opportunity to celebrate this most joyous festival with Srimati Radharani. So he asked Subal, the cowherd boy, who was supposed to be on the backside of protecting Krishna, according to Mother Yashoda, but he was given an assignment. He said, please go and bring Srimati Radharani. Now, how to do that? We know, like, to bring somebody out from, like a prison or something, we know how high security, right? Heavy security, right? So Radharani was staying at home with heavy security. Jatila, Kotila are there, heavy security. But Subal had this very special feature, that his complexion was exactly like that of Srimati Radharani. So using his intelligence. See, sometimes in devotional service we have a difficult task, a difficult seva. But Krishna also gives us intelligence of how to perform that and the ability. So we should remain determined. Subal could have said, Krishna, that's impossible. I can't go. Radharani is restricted from seeing you. How in the middle of the day I can take her and bring her here? It's impossible. But a devotee of the Lord will do anything for the pleasure of Krishna. So Subal came up with a great plan. He said, you know what? I'll sneak into her place. So what he did, he took one calf with him. And he carried the calf right to the edge of their home, of Radharani's home. And he twisted the tail of the calf. And the calf went running. And so the calf went running. And so then Subal went running inside the home of Radharani. And there he ran into Jatila. And she said, what are you doing here? Aren't you the friend of that Krishna? Get out! He says, no, I am the friend, but we lost one of our calves. She said, no, your calves are not here. No, but we lost one of my calves. Like, these boys are pretty persistent. She said, fine, go find your calf and make your way out of here. So Subal goes looking around and he ends up in the room of Srimati Radharani. And there the calf is sitting there. And so he develops a plan. So he quickly changes his clothes, his dhoti, kurta, turban, and gives it to Radharani. So Radharani dresses up in the dhoti, kurta, and everything, and is starting to walk out. But we know boys are anatomically different than girls. So then she carries the calf like this and is walking out. And Jatila sees, Radharani, but dressed up in dhoti, kurta, turban, carrying the calf. Says, oh good, you found your calf, now get out of here. Quickly. And so in this way, Radharani left. And Subal is staying hiding in Srimati Radharani's room. And so thus we see her dressed like this, in a turban, in a dhoti, robes, beautiful bugle horn. So Radharani makes it to Krishna in the forest. But Krishna is not able to see this, right? He's seeing Subal. And he becomes sad. He's like, I was expecting you to bring Radharani. So Radharani, she's always playing games with Krishna. So she says, let me play a little. She says, I'm sorry, I tried, but I was not successful. I tried my best. And Krishna's lamenting, he's crying. Then she really tests Krishna. She says, you know what? Well, Radharani is not available. Shall I go get Chandravali? Maybe she's available. And Krishna says, curd cannot satisfy the thirst for milk. And then Radharani became very pleased. And when she became pleased, then she embraces Krishna. And then she said, you don't recognize your own maidservant? And then Krishna knew, she had come. So even Krishna, due to mystic potency, was initially not even recognizing. So I see cowherd boy. Do you see Radharani? The pujaris this morning have dressed Radharani so perfectly. Looks just like a cowherd boy. So this is why Radharani enhanced And we can see something very special in the service of Subal. I said, who is most looking forward to celebrating the activity of Krishna and Balaram going to the forest? Who was most anxious for that opportunity? The cowherd boys. This was a momentous occasion to enjoy with Krishna and Balaram in the forest, away from the shackles of the glances of the elders. And what did Subal do? He gave up that opportunity. Why? For the pleasure of Krishna. To please Krishna, he knew, I want to be here, but Krishna wants Srimati Radharani to be here. So my happiness is not coming from me being here. My happiness will be coming from pleasing Krishna. So he gave up his position, hid in the room of Srimati Radharani, while all the other cowherd boys were enjoying with Krishna. This is the definition of Anyamilashita Shrinyam Gyanakamari Navatam Anukulyena Krishna Anushelanam Bhaktir Uttama. Uttama, the highest bhakti, is not doing the service that we want to do for Krishna. It is doing the service that Krishna wants us to do. Sometimes, we hanker for this and that. And we sometimes lament, oh, this person got the service and I didn't get the service. We should not think that way. We should think, what service I can do that will please Krishna. If somebody is able to do a service better than us, instead of getting our elbows out to push them back and get in front, we say, how can I serve you in serving Krishna? Because if I make chapatis for Krishna, they're going to be hard, uncooked, overcooked, they won't be right. But if somebody else can, then maybe I can assist them. Because the goal is making nice chapatis for Krishna, not me making chapatis for Krishna. And this is the mood that Subal had. His mood wasn't, Krishna, can you send somebody else again? I want to hang out with you. No. And when he was given a difficult task, he didn't think, impossible. He figured out a way to make it happen. And this is how devotees happen. And Srila Prabhupada was the epitome of this mood. At the age of 70, he performed the impossible. Coming to this world, the world meaning this U.S., the most degraded of conditions, where there was no cow protection, there was no respect for brahmanas, and perform this service to his spiritual master and to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Overcoming all odds. He left Vrindavan, the place that all devotees aspired to be in. He was living in Vrindavan. He had a permanent place right at the epicenter of our Gaudiya Vaishnava movement in Radha Damodar temple. No better place he could have been situated. Respected by all the great personalities of Vrindavan. And he left all of that to roam by himself in the streets of New York, looking for where to go, how to fulfill this mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Gauranga Mahaprabhu. This is the mood of selfless service. And by Srila Prabhupada's unlimited mercy, we are able to sit here. We are able to serve these most potent, most merciful Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari. We are able to read from Srimad Bhagavatam and understand some small glimpse of this Gopastami celebration and all these wonderful festivals, so that we can reawaken our love for Krishna. This is just a glimpse. Jiva Goswami writes again in his Gopala Champu that if the two reciters had thousands of mouths and they spoke for thousands of days, they could not cover even a single day of activities that took place while Krishna was tending to the cows. So prolific are these actions. But whatever glimpse we have It is by the unlimited mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And so we express our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this opportunity to understand something about Gopastami and to be under the loving shelter of Shri Radha Kunj Vihari and make progress in devotional service. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda. Any comments, corrections, clarifications, questions? Yes, ma'am.
Prabhuji, as always, thank you for such a wonderful lecture today. How can we understand Krishna's not recognizing Radharani right away? How can we understand, did he know that it was her and he was just playing along with the pastime? Or how can we really understand that he could not know that it was?
So the question is, how can we understand that Krishna could not recognize Radharani? Did he know but pretend to not know? So Prabhuji understands that Krishna is omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. He knows everything. He knows past, present, and future. He's all-knowing. So how he could not know that Srimati Radharani was there? Right? So this is one of the mystical potencies that takes place between Krishna and his Ragatmika Bhaktas. These Ragatmika Bhaktas are the eternal residents of Vrindavan, who have the highest and purest love for Krishna. So in order for Krishna to experience the ecstasy of these different relationships, Yogamaya, he brings Yogamaya to cover his own understanding. See, Yogamaya's expansion is Mahamaya. Mahamaya is the illusion we speak of. That illusion gives us the illusion of being separated from Krishna. Yogamaya performs the opposite. It intensifies the relationship with Krishna. So, for example, how Krishna could experience the relationship of mother and father. If he's the supreme almighty controller, which he is, Parama, Ishvara, right? Ishvara Parama Krishna, he's the supreme controller, then how he can experience the rasa of being corrected by his father, being chastised with a stick by his mother. Right? So to intensify that experience, to give Krishna that experience of love from mother and father, Yogamaya covers his understanding. But Yogamaya also has to cover the understanding of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Because if they recognize Krishna, Supreme Lord, they'll just offer obeisances. But Krishna doesn't want that. He wants that motherly love, that fatherly love. So they also become covered by Yogamaya's illusion. But in the core of their heart, they know he's a Supreme Lord. But they cover. Just like in Damodar Astakam, we see that Krishna is shedding tears. Right? On one hand, we say there are false tears. But actually, Jiva Goswami writes that they're not false tears. They're real tears. One, those tears started when Mother Yashoda went into the kitchen to take the milk off the stove. If they were just for show for Mother Yashoda, what was the point of tears? He was alone. He bit his lip. Right? This all we read in Damarastakam. It became red like the bimba fruit. Why? Nobody was there. There was no one to perform for. We perform a drama for an audience. There was no audience. So like this, we understand, actually this was part of to enrich the experience. So to enrich his experience of being reunited with even Srimati Radharani, this happens like this. So this is the transcendental relationship and exchanges between Krishna and his devotees. If we try to understand them with our own mundane logic, we'll be bewildered and we'll draw faulty conclusions. Either, Krishna was fooled, or Krishna is just a dramatist. No, we must understand these through Guru Parampara. Only way, otherwise we'll be bewildered. So, would you have a question?
Yeah, thank you for your lecture. Hare Krishna. I'm wondering how, since there are no cows in the neighborhood, how can we get involved in cow protection being such an important service?
How we can be, what's the practical way in which we can be involved in cow protection? So it's a great question. So, cow protection can be done in a lot of different ways. One, we can pray hard according to our capacity to, protect the cows and to Krishna. We can be intelligent with our own, utilization of products, abstaining from having leather in our, there are some practical issues that present themselves in the world that sometimes limit our complete, abstaining from leather, but as much as possible, we should. And of course, if we can participate in, serving, the cows in some way, it is very, very beneficial. There's different, schools of thought. Again, I don't want to get into the controversial topic about, whether we should take milk or not. But we know Krishna enjoys milk products and milk goods. So the one opportunity is that we can offer wonderful milk products to Krishna, because the cow gets the benefit of its milk having been used to serve and please Krishna, despite, it's not so humane treatment. We can try to consume. We had this wonderful, Gita Nagri milk program going for a while. We can pray that it can happen. We have this farm here in Mabee, Michigan that's doing some great work in cow protection. But we need to do a lot in protecting the cows. So whatever we can feasibly do within our means, we can do. That's the opportunity. We can pray. There's so much land around here. I was just speaking with one devotee that somehow how we cannot bring Radha Kunj Vihari or Goshala here also. Why it cannot happen? There's no reason it cannot. We have a beautiful river with a natural water, perfect place for cows. So let us pray that if Radha Kunj Vihari wants it to happen, we can also establish a very vibrant Goshala here. And it'll be a great opportunity for us to render service to the cows. So, thank you. Yes, Prabhuji.
Now a question, just a comment. People when they eat meat, they say that you consume about 220 animals a year, right? Maybe there are 10 cows in the 220 animals. So if you preach and make more devotees, you are saving 10 cows every year. So preach.
Yes, good point. Even if you cannot preach, you can speak about the health benefits of abstaining from red meat. Whatever it takes. But a good point. More preaching, the more devotees we have, naturally cows will be protected. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the lecture.
Thank you.
I got a question. I used to belong to a group called Animal Liberation Front, and they did a lot of stuff like freeing animals, and they would go in and animals would be experimented on. But if you